Hey everyone, today I'm creating these cards using the October 2022 SheetLoad of Card template. I have previously used this template already, but I love it so much that I'm using it again in a slightly different way. There's links below to how to get the sketch, as well as a hashtag in the title and in the description to the collaboration team, so please go check out everybody's cards. These are the ones I created in my first video and I used scraps. I also did put an extra matting layer with the craft layer on the left hand side that you can see. On the right hand side it's a bit more true to the sketch and I've got my black mats. So I really love this process. Let's jump into it. The paper pack that I'm using is Urban Garden from Paper Rose, and the minute I saw this, I wanted it. I absolutely love all the burgundies and reds and pinks with the black and the sketchy look of it. I'm sorting through here, putting everything in piles. There's actually 3 of each of the 6 designs, and each of them is double-sided. So the one I'm looking at here is covered in sentiments, and I'm just checking that they're sentiments that I'm likely to use. And I come to the conclusion that they are, so I've put them aside and I'm going to use them for a different project. So today I've got 15 sheets of double-sided 6x6 paper, and each sheet makes 3 cards. So I'm going to create 45 cards by using up the entire paper pack. So I'm looking through and I'm trying to make some decisions about which side of the paper I'm going to use, and then I'm going to bundle them into groups of 3 so that when I chop them up, I can put 3 pieces of pattern paper on each card, and I'm not going to have to shuffle around and try and make sure I'm not using the same paper in the same place. I really try and plan it up front. I find it way easier. So I'm sorting through, I've got my first color combination, and a couple of these papers look really similar, but I didn't want to use, there's one that's a little bit of a purpley tinge that doesn't seem to match particularly well with everything else. And so I am using some of the black ones here. So this one with the black pattern paper is fantastic. It is exactly the same design though as the one on the bottom left with the reddy burgundy color. So I'm trying to mix them up and make sure that the color combinations are going to work. And you keep seeing me flipping back and forwards, trying to figure out which one I'm going to match up. I try and use the purple tone. I decide it's really not going to work, so I stick with the black and white. So I now have 5 piles of 3 pieces of the pattern paper, and I'm sorting through and chopping them up and putting them in little piles along the top of my desk. So you can see I've already chopped up one set on the top left. I found this card sketch to be really easy when you're chopping down the pattern paper. You get into a bit of a rhythm, and the sizing of each of the pieces is, quite simple to burn through. So I've just ran through it all quite quickly. Because the Paper Rose paper is kind of shiny, I really struggled to do 2 pieces at once. Normally, if I was using something from Honeybee Stamps, for example, I would do 2 on top of each other and I would know that I would get a perfect cut. I can't do that with Paper Rose or Brutus Monroe just because the style of the paper sheets it's like a glossy color print. So it's too slippery and I don't trust myself not to move and then do a miscut. And I love the paper so much, I don't want to mess it up. In the end, it really didn't take too long to go through and do 1 sheet at a time. Now that I've cut everything down, I'm just trying things out on the black mats to make sure everything looks okay. And that just means layering everything down without actually gluing anything. I do have a blank sentiment strip there. I haven't figured out my sentiment yet, and it's just the layout that I'm testing, and I'm pretty happy with how that looks. So now the trick is which of the sentiments from my stamp set is going to fit. Now this is the mini saying stamp set from My Favorite Things. I absolutely love it. The scripty style of it just looks fantastic, and it really blends in well with the sketchy look of this paper pad. And I had a really hard time trying to figure out which of the sayings I would use. I did consider mixing it up and using a few different ones, but because they were all birthday, I thought it would be easier if I just picked one and stuck with it. The happy birthday does look fantastic, but I really tried to use something a little bit different. And you can see here, I've actually got the piece of white paper behind the sentiments so that I can really see which one's going to layer well and be well centered on the little 2x2 inch white piece of paper. In the end, I had these little strips on my desk that were, I think they were 2¼ inch by 1¾ And I determined that I could cut the 1/4 inch off the end to make it the correct width, which was 2 inches. And it's a little bit shorter than the card sketch, but because that last piece of pattern paper goes over the top, it's going to be covered up and you won't see that it's not the full 2 by 2 inches. Up next, I'm stamping out the sentiments. You can see here that I'm pressing down with my misti and then I'm leaving it for a couple of seconds before lifting it up. This just gives the ink a chance to really sort of soak into the paper. If you stamp it too quickly with the misti, I find that I need to then double stamp or triple stamp to get a good impression. But if I just use the actual ink that's coming off the stamp, I tend to get a good impression first time the majority of the time, especially because I was using some Versamark ink, which is actually a pigment ink. All right, now I'm actually gluing together some of the panels and I'm just doing 3 at a time. So I've put my ATG adhesive on the back of all of these components and I'm just putting the strip down the side, then the happy birthday, and then I spin it around to add the 3rd piece onto the backing panel. It is worth noting that when I did my 45 cards and I was attaching them to the actual card bases in the end, I actually put one of the happy birthdays upside down. So this does happen sometimes and it was easy to fix, but it just made me laugh that with the scripty font, I obviously, even though I thought I was paying attention, I did miss the fact that one of them was upside down, but easily fixed. I'm now adding the black matting layer to the last piece of the pattern paper and then I will trim those down. If you're enjoying the video, it would be great if you could hit the like button. That really does let YouTube know that you're enjoying it and to spread it to more viewers. So super helpful to all content creators. All right, here's the fun part. Now that I've got the panel done, I've got a bigger border around the edge than I'm used to. So I'm trying to use my cutting mat to make sure that I've got things lined up perfectly and then try and line up that pattern. For some reason, I can do it perfectly when it's a 1/4 inch border, but when it's a 1/2 inch border, apparently I cannot line this up to save myself. So I had to do that 2 or 3 times and I had to unstick it and restick it. So then I decided holding up the card so that I had a better view of it and lining up the panel worked way better. So it's unfortunately not a great angle for the camera, but it did mean that I was able to line it up without causing absolute chaos. I also wanted to mention that I have put links below in the description to all of the products that I'm using. That includes the stamp set and the Paper Rose paper pad, but then also all of the tools and things that I use. And they're always listed below if you're ever looking for some reference to what you see me using on screen. I am super happy with how these cards turned out with the black matting layer, but I am curious which one you like better. Do you like the bright blue and yellow style with craft, or do you prefer the sort of more bold red and blacks with the black matte layers? Let me know in the comments below. I do a lot of videos using card sketches, in particular these ones from Crafty Owl, so you can find a playlist in my YouTube videos, and I've also put a link here to another video that I think you might enjoy. Have a great day.